The gentleman that was sitting in front of me had come to discuss the blood I had taken. And when I told him his results, he stared in disbelief and looked quite shaken. His average blood sugar test was high, the one known as HbA1c. He was now a type 2 diabetic, which is why he was so upset, you see. "How has this happened?" he asked. "I don't really like chocolate or sweets. Sure, I put on a bit of weight recently, but I'm careful to avoid too many treats." Now, before I go any further today, I just want to make a few things clear. This poem's contents might not apply to you or other diabetic friends you hold dear. It's not for the type 1s on insulin, nor those on multiple drugs I'm informing. But if you're pre-diabetic or diet controlled, listen on, and also if you're just on metformin. However, regardless of which group you're in, perhaps take the advice from this list and discuss it with your helpful GP or try the diabetic nurse specialist. Anyway, now that bit's out of the way, let's talk about my answers to this guy. How did he end up with this disease? And to improve his outcomes, we would try. Looking at the history of type 2 diabetes, you'll see it wasn't described until 1936. The rise of refined sugary foods and steel-milled wheat seemed to coincide with this fix. And nowadays, refined wheat and sugar abound. They are full of calories and we love the taste. But we can't store much sugar, so it sits as fat in our organs and on our waist. The poor pancreas is one of those organs, and as we develop more fatty congestion, it's no wonder things start to malfunction, leading to high blood sugar diabetic progression. I took a look at the medical type 2 guidance. "Encourage a low-fat diet," I read. But as I've said before, when fat's removed, the taste comes from added sugar instead. "That's all well and good," said the man, "but now you've got me totally confused. What should I cut out and not eat?" He really did not look all that amused. "Are you going to put me on medications? Because I really hate taking pills. I don't want to be one of those people who use drugs to fix all their ills." "Well, sir, you might be one of the lucky ones. Your sugar levels are not all that bad. But even though you don't have a sweet tooth, other foods will be making your pancreas quite sad." Let me introduce what I call the Big Four. The foods diabetics should try to go without. Everyone knows about cakes and biscuits, but these are the ones people seem to forget about. The first two are the offspring of refined wheat. That's pasta number 1, and number 2 is bread. Starchy food which breaks down to sugars, so try non-wheat products instead. Next up is the humble tuberous potato, but that's another dietary starchy foe. Think about that next time you're eating crisps. I know it's not fair, but there you go. The last of the four is white rice, again which is riddled with starch galore, and unless we are exercising really hard, it's starch to sugars to fat, then store. It's also worth mentioning artificial sweeteners, which were once thought to be diabetically okay. However, we now know these are terrible. You'll need to avoid these too, I'm afraid to say. They can be 50 times sweeter than sugar, setting up the body for a sweetness ruse. But real sugars don't come, so we consume more. And eventually carbohydrate snacking ensues. The other thing to talk about here is our ubiquitous frenemy called booze. You might not realise that ethanol is a sugar, a diabetic conflict your liver and pancreas will always lose. Big Food and Big Pharma have done supremely well to trap us in this sugary vicious cycle, eating super tasty carb-loaded munchies, then taking meds as hard as we're able. "So there it is," I said to my patient. "It's really up to you which way you go. You can choose a more helpful diet, and perhaps to the drugs you can say no." We do, however, live in an entitled society, which does rankle me just a little bit. And if you outsource your health to medicines, you can choose to have your cake and eat it.